we go. Were you killed in the Battle of the Evermores?
Yes.
Great. I mean, not for you. Sorry for your loss. 4 more questions, right?
Yes.
No, that wasn't for you. Did that count as a question?
Yes.
Damn it. Only answer when I talk to you, okay?
Yes.
Why did you say okay at the end of that?
I didn't.
Fantastic. Where's the shovel?
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody. My name is Kevin.
My name is Adam.
And I'm Julie.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. And welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. A charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic. But things go dangerously awry when run afoul of the wrong people. Okay, guys. I'm going to have a little bit of talk with you here. I really don't know anything about Dungeons & Dragons. You know, and I know some people probably just like clicked off the video as soon as I said that. And like, why is this guy talking about this movie? He's not going to get any of the references. He's not going to... You know what? Even that being said, maybe I don't get everything that happened in this movie. I still know the identifiable things, like the big eye monster thing with the teeth, the chest, the square jelly cube. Adam's like just nodding his head like, all right, Kevin, you're sinking it. You're sinking it. Yeah, I know. I understand what D&D is though, overall. You know, it's a board game, you know, but friends get together, you go on a quest, you have this big adventure. And if we're just talking about that, I think Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves captures the spirit of that in some really fun ways. When I first saw this trailer, I'm curious what you guys thought too. I cringed a lot when I saw this. I was like, there's no way in hell this is going to work. This is just Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff trash, Hollywood cashing in on something. After sitting down and watching it, I think there's a flare of that in there, but you know what? This movie does have an identity of its own, and I think if you are a Dungeons & Dragons fan, I think you're going to have a really, really, really good time with this. But again, me being the layman, not knowing too much about Dungeons & Dragons, there was still some fun stuff to be had here, and I think I had a better time than I thought. Adam, I want to start with you. What are some of your thoughts on this? I know you're a huge Dungeons & Dragons fan.
Oh yeah, you got me.
I got you.
You got me. No, I actually have quite a few friends that are really big Dungeons and Dragons fans, and I know enough, I think, and from what I saw, it was actually pretty on par with like a an actual adventure, I guess.
Like a campaign, right? Like
yes, a campaign.
Like a real campaign. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know. I thought it was pretty funny. I really liked it. I thought the comedy in the movie was pretty great. I thought the pacing, honestly, was pretty good too. I really enjoyed it. It was very surprising.
Yeah, that's surprising too. I think, again, it's one of those movies. I think it was a little bit too long. I think it's just. I think I'm going to say that every movie we watch. I think it's just
Probably.
just a little bit too long. Except for our
Agreed.
Mario. If you check out our Mario Brothers review, I didn't say that, but in this movie, it just ran a little bit too long for me. But other than that, it was funnier than I thought. And I thought at first, it was just like I have super low expectations and I expect absolutely nothing from this. But it wasn't that. I actually found myself laughing at a lot of the jokes. And like you said, I think I had a pretty good time with this too. Julie, how about you? What'd you think?
I had no expectations going into this movie. My extent of D&D knowledge is literally from Stranger Things. Same reaction to you, Kevin, as when we watched the trailer. I remember we looked at each other like, this movie is gonna suck. And then once the early reactions started coming out, I'm like, wait, is this actually good? And we watched it, and I love this movie. It is so much fun. Like Adam said, it's funny. There's really great comedy in it. I love the adventure aspect of it and the magic. Is it a little too long? Sure, but I didn't mind that as much as I normally do in movies. Like, I definitely could see, all right, yeah, we could trim here, cut that. But overall, I had a really, really fun time with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I can agree with you 100%. I think there's something I do want to talk about. So the comedy in this movie, I think, is the main selling point. I think we can kind of all agree with that. Like that is kind of what really attracts you to this movie. I like what they do with the comedy here, because I've been seeing a lot in Marvel movies where characters are funny without it being necessarily applicable to their character. So, for example, everyone is a Tony Stark, right? Everyone is a sarcastic character no matter who it is, whether it's out of character or not. Like, you can have suddenly Captain America being Tony Stark out of nowhere, or, just the Hulk, like, Mark Ruffalo playing, Bruce Banner, start being snarky and ha ha ha. It doesn't make sense to the character. And I think that's the one thing that's always really bothered me with Marvel movies. Not all of them are like that, but I would say the majority of them do have this kind of samey character disease going on. And Dungeons and Dragons, I thought we were going to get that, but when you really look at the comedy that's going on here, all the characters that have dialogue, when they make jokes or they have quips, they make sense to the character. If you guys are following me, like Chris Pine, who plays Edgin, he plays the bard of the group. Sure, he's snarky. He's a snarky bard, right? He's a snarky bard, a thief. It kind of makes sense when he makes certain quips to certain characters. Then you have Michelle Rodriguez, who plays Holga. She is, the warrior type class too, but her jokes make sense to her character, right? Did everyone kind of feel that with like all the different characters here? Because I definitely got that feeling where like even Justice Smith, who plays Simon, who's a wizard, like it made sense. He wasn't just snarky for snark's sake. Like it made sense to the character that he was portraying.
It's crazy how like the actors embraced these characters like they would in a D&D campaign.
Yeah, and that's what they were. They were literally role-playing characters to some extent.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just weird how well it worked, though. I don't know. It's just very bizarre to me that I enjoyed this movie so much.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, because there's actors in here who I would never have pegged for like being in this movie, like Chris Pine for one. Like, he's a funny guy. Like, I just didn't think he'd be like, oh yeah, it's Dungeons and Dragons, I'm in. But he really just threw, I know Kevin has his own opinions. I feel like he did an awesome job in the role. He had fun with it. He kind of just let go. Hugh Grant, like, amazing. He literally just rolled with it in a way only Hugh Grant can. Even Michelle Rodriguez, I have limited experience watching her and stuff. I am not a Fast and the Furious kind of person. She irks me every time I see her on screen in the trailers or the few movies I've seen of them. Like, she's going to be the worst part of this movie. I actually really found her character endearing and funny when she was supposed to be funny. Again, I just had a really great time with this movie. And like you said, Adam, like, I feel like everyone just really embraced, their roles, and not the zaniness, but the fact that like, we're going to take this, seriously to an extent because, we're in it.
Yeah, it feels like a group of friends getting together and going on a campaign, which is kind of what Adam said. And I think that's the most you can really ask for in this movie. But not even that. Like this movie has a different plot than I thought we were going to get. At the beginning of the movie, it shows Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez are trapped in prison, and we're trying to find out why, and they're trying to break out, which that whole sequence is absolutely hilarious in the beginning of this movie. I did not expect that. But then you find out, Chris Pine had a daughter, and, he's trying to go back to get her, and there's some other stuff going on. I won't go too much into the details, but I think the story subverted my expectations a little bit in the beginning, because I thought the movie was just going to be this one-way adventure, for selfless, self-serving characters, and it really wasn't that at all. It was a bunch of these like misfits coming together to go on an adventure, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I think it really comes together because of the performances. If they weren't as strong as they were, this movie would have no business being, I think, as good as it is. And even on top of that, combined with the fact that I think there's a lot of practical effects in this movie, it really astounds me when you really look at that, because for a movie like this, you really look at, there's going to be a lot of CGI, and I think there is to some extent, but a lot of the creature designs, especially one of the characters early on in the movie, who I'm talking about, he was completely practical. And that's pretty impressive when you really look at it. Again, it impresses me to no end when I see that. And again, I think it adds to the experience, especially in a movie like this where it's kind of like a campaign. Even if they looked like people in masks, so what? Like, you know what I mean? It adds to that fun experience, and that's what this movie's really trying to go for, I think, overall. Adam, what did you think? Did you think they did a good job with, like, as far as the plot? Did it subvert any of your expectations, as far as what you were thinking?
I think it definitely broke the mold a little bit, especially with the main character trying to save his daughter rather than save a princess or something like that, or save his love interest. I don't know. It was just a very unique take, and I think that definitely adds to the charm of the uniqueness of a D&D campaign.
Right, it's a little bit endearing. It almost feels like, to some extent, it was crafted on the fly. Like maybe a good dungeon master, if you would have created a story, like throwing these twists and turns at the cast as they go along. Especially towards the end of the movie, which I thought was really well done, with like the labyrinth sequences where they're trapped inside and they have to kind of go through, and then even the fight at the end that they have with Doric. I really liked her character. She was really creepy. The Red Wizards, I believe they're called. I really liked those characters. Again, I know nothing about D&D. They could be the worst characters in the world, but shown to me in this movie, I thought they were really cool. I really liked their design. I thought it was a really good mystery. Was it kind of laser beamy in the sky, death to the world? Yeah, a little bit towards the end, but you know what? When you do it this fun and having such a great time, I can appreciate that, and I think this movie was able to make me forget that trope and kind of forgive it, if you will, and let this movie just breathe and have a good time. The only character that I kind of had a problem with, not so much a problem with, was Julie. I know you know him from Bridgerton.
Yes, Regé Jean Page.
Yeah, who played Zenk, I believe is his name. Now, he's not a bad character, and I really do like his character in this movie. He's a very straight-laced paladin-like character, and him and Chris Pine have some really good chemistry going back and forth together. The problem with this character is it feels like he was just kind of thrown in the middle of this movie, and we just had this random side quest, and he shows up for a little bit and then he kind of just disappears. I thought he was going to be more part of the party and become a more integral part of the experience. Do you think there was any kind of pacing issues with this, Adam? Not even just this scene, but overall, I feel like there were some of these kind of issues thrown throughout the movie where it's just a little bit of, just pacing, inconsistency.
I'm not entirely sure if that was supposed to be like the randomness of the D&D campaign,
right?
To a certain extent, or maybe it really was just pacing issues. But I don't know. It's hard to tell, I guess. I don't think it detracted too much from the film itself, but it definitely feels prevalent, at least for us that don't really play D&D.
Right, and again, I don't want to take it away. I think it was a fun sequence, and I think it was really well done and all that. It's just, I felt like it just kind of didn't add really much to the overall end of this movie, and maybe it just kind of took away from the main plot a little bit. But I guess that goes into my other little small complaint is I'm not really a Chris Pine fan. I'm sorry, guys. I really don't like Chris Pine, and here it comes. Julie's gonna slit my throat after the video's over. If I'm found, guys, you know what to do.
Sean Page and Chris Pine.
I think he's the weaker of the Chris's. At the Battle of the Chris's, he's the weaker actor of the bunch, in my opinion. He's kind of suffers from like Chris Pratt type in a way where he's just so generic. Chris Pine just is kind of a generic guy. He's like the generic, haha, handsome, funny guy. And again, not that he's bad. He just doesn't do anything for me. Am I the only one here? You could tell me honestly. Is it just a Kevin feeling? Oh, no.
I think that some of the jokes, I guess they seemed a little too forced.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just the kind of vibe that I got. But then other ones, I was like, that seemed more natural.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard.
And part of it, I think, is the comedy aspect of this movie. Like I said, I did praise it earlier, why all these jokes work. But there's also, for every 3 that work, there might be another 3 that don't work. And you just have to, it's kind of just the way a comedy is. Not every joke's going to land 100% of the time. But I would say on average, maybe 80% of the jokes probably hit 85% of the jokes probably hit in this movie versus the some that don't. It's just some of the ones that were kind of stinkers were kind of in there, and I feel like they just kind of slow down the pace of the movie for me. Now, Julie, I know you severely disagree with me.
I thought he was really charming and charismatic as, the bard and the, leader of the group, even though he's probably one of the most ill-equipped out of a lot of them, just kind of I think he calls himself the plan guy. He's always thinking of the plans. I thought he was enjoyable. I mean, out of all of the Chris's, I think he was the perfect one for this role.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument made. I think he just has an adaptability that I think a lot of directors look for in an actor. They're charming, they're good looking, they're funny, they work. What?
Why is that a bad thing?
Again, I'm saying
Totally, that's a skill set.
he slides into the role perfectly. I just don't think he adds anything extravagant to make the role remarkable, if you will, if that makes any sense.
I think if you had put Chris Pratt in this movie, it would have been a lot worse.
I think it would have been just as serviceable.
I
But
agree with Julie.
Okay. But we've also
I do.
seen Chris Pratt in this role. We've seen it, if you want to make the argument, we've
That's
seen it with
true.
Guardians of the Galaxy, which
That's
this movie
true.
kind of wants to be in some ways. I think it wants to capture that same kind of buddy, bunch of people coming together.
to be fair, and we've talked about this through the review, D&D is a team building game. It's a game played amongst friends.
Friends, remember that, guys, friends.
Friends. So that's why you can't say like every team up movie is a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I mean, by nature, with it being a D&D movie, it has to have that teamwork, people coming together of different backgrounds and classes.
Yeah.
It's not a Guardians ripoff.
No, it's not. But again, it just in tone, I think it captures a lot of the similarities that we've come to expect from a typical Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And you know what? It's severely better than the last time we got another Dungeons and Dragons, which is funny because we were just talking about Super Mario Brothers in one of our more recent reviews. Everyone forgets Dungeons and Dragons had a similar adaptation with the Waynes. I think it was one of the Waynes brothers was in it. I did watch it a long, long time ago, and I completely forgot about it. And there's probably a reason why, because it was terrible. But yeah, this is the adaptation I think fans are going to be happy for. Again, if you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan, I think there's something there for you. I think it's just a really fun time. The special effects, when they're there, they're great. I think the practical effects are way better, but I understand, with the way things are, that you have to have some of these 3D effects. But at the end of the day, it was a fun movie. I'm not going to be too harsh on it, but I think I really enjoyed my time more than I didn't. So that being said, I think we're ready to give our final scores on this one, guys. I'm going to give Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves a 7.5 out of 10.
Make no sound. They're drawn to mental energy. The higher the intelligence of the prey, the more likely they are to strike.
Oh, that's a little hurtful.
I had a really good time with this movie, guys. I don't think it's the best movie I've seen all year, but I think I did really enjoy myself. This movie ultimately, I think, feels like this very 80s style kind of movie, right? Where it's just like this very fun, generic, having a good time kind of movie that has a lighthearted tone, a lot of action, a lot of adventure, feel good kind of ending. I think this movie really is a good time. Will you be blown away by it? Probably not, but I think you're going to leave this, more than you expected. And it goes to show, we should always judge a book by its cover, because Dungeons and Dragons definitely gave me a surprise. I'll tell you that. Adam, how about you? What do you think of this one?
I am going to give Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves an 8.5 out of 10.
Here he goes.
Just wandering off.
Walks in such a straight line. Uh-oh, wait a minute. He's coming up on a rock. Is he gonna go around? Nope. Right over the rock.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a good one. I enjoyed it. I liked the comedy. It was good. I thought all the characters really fit their roles really well. And I would absolutely watch more of this. If there was, maybe I'll even play a D&D campaign.
Hey,
maybe.
Let's do it.
Doing it live. We're doing it on the channel. We're doing it live. Hey, thumbs up if you like that. Leave a comment. Let us know. Maybe we'll try something crazy. We're gonna get a little crazy, guys. Yeah, Adam, I can agree with you on that. I think I'm being the bad guy lately. I need to calm down a little bit.
Yes, you are.
I know, but you know what? I think this is a good movie. I think there is a lot of the characters at the end of the day. I think were really fun and really engaging, and I could definitely see it coming to that score. So no hate here. Julie, how about you? What do you think of this one?
I feel so validated now because I'm going to be giving Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves an 8.5 out of 10 as well.
There once were contenders, now are befrienders. Let's celebrate lasses, celebrate lasses, celebrate lasses, celebrate lasses. What's going on?
My foot is stuck.
Concentrate, son.
Braid.
What madness is this?
I had such a fun, enjoyable time. I'm already like anxious to rewatch it. Again, like someone who has no knowledge and like I'm watching this, I'm like, I am having so much fun. Like I really enjoyed myself. I thought all of the performances were great. I feel like they all had a good chemistry. It felt like a group of people coming together to complete a campaign. So I definitely can't wait to journey back, hopefully with these characters, but maybe they'll do something different and just, another campaign with some different people. But I'm very excited with this final piece.
Right, and that's an interesting fact too. I think you could make other, sequels or successions to this movie with other characters and not necessarily have to be the same ones. Dungeons and Dragons kind of lends itself perfectly to that kind of, storytelling where, the Dungeon Master makes the story. And again, I think it is a good time, and I would like to see what they could do with it in the future now that they kind of did develop a bit of quite a fan base, especially when this came out, on physical media most recently. I think a lot of people got to experience this movie and give it a shot, and it's well deserved. I think Dungeons & Dragons is a good time. If you can, you guys should check it out. But thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin. That guy over there, he's Adam, and that's Julie. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. We'll catch you next time.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.